So I was involved in a play, The Last Days of Judas Iscariot. It was my first play, this play. It's a great play. I met this guy right here. His name is David Mancha. And David kept telling me about a show he was involved in, apart from the one we were in, that was great. The name of the play was Boeing Boeing. The trouble is, he kept telling me, it was that they couldn't keep the actor for a certain role. They kept dropping out, moving out of town. And when David told me the plot of the play, it sounded like a lot of fun. What I didn't get was why he wasn't offering me the part. Finally, he did. Well, he offered me the part subject to the approval of this man, Crash Peterson, who seemed willing to give me a chance based on Dave's recommendation. Well, maybe based on Dave's recommendation and their desperation to fill the role. Anyway, I got my chance. So they sent a guy over to my house with the script named Richard Chavez. Nice guy. He said, "Steve, we're glad to have you aboard. There's only one possible problem. You see, in the script, it calls for you to have a kiss on stage with a couple of the actresses." And he asked, "Is this going to be a problem?" No, it would not be a problem. So I met the cast. The trouble was that at that point, we really didn't have that much time to rehearse for the play, so we really had to hustle. We didn't have enough official rehearsal dates to be ready in time. So we agreed to extra rehearsal dates at each other's houses during the week. Even with that, it was touch and go. The week before the performance, we weren't really sure we'd have a show. Anyway, here's a breakdown of the story. The play takes place in the 1960s in the Paris apartment of a guy named Bernard. That's Bernard there. He's there with his American fiancée, Gloria. Gloria was played by Katie Mancha, who is married to David Mancha. We find out in a conversation with Bertha, the French housekeeper, played by Claudia Cortez, that there's definitely a scheduling problem. Bernard acts normal enough as Gloria gets ready to leave the apartment to go to her job as an airline hostess. But before Gloria leaves, Bernard's friend from Wisconsin, Robert Lambert, drops in as a complete surprise. By the way, that's me playing Robert Lambert. After the pleasantries, Bernard reveals to Robert what's really going on. Thanks to Bernard's connections at the airport, he knows the precise schedules of the 3 airline hostesses he's engaged to. The stress of juggling Bernard's 3 airline hostess fiancés' schedules reveals a rift between Bernard and his housekeeper. Poor Robert just has to roll with the punches. The plot thickens when Gabriella, Bernard's Italian air hostess fiancée, shows up. Gabriella was played by stunningly gorgeous Ashley Patterson. Bernard has definitely had his way up till now, but things are about to get complicated. Bernard may be used to this stressful juggling act, but Robert certainly isn't. Robert is both horrified and amazed at this absolutely crazy situation. But even as Robert tries to deal with the stress in the household, part of him wonders if he could take advantage of this situation. And then suddenly, things get much more complicated. Because then Gretchen shows up, Bernard's 3rd fiancée. She's a Lufthansa air hostess. Gretchen is just over the top in love with Bernard. By the way, Gretchen was played brilliantly by Ali Kimmel. At this point, Gretchen has no idea who Robert is or that he's visiting. So when Gretchen comes out to give a kiss to who she thinks is Bernard, it's really Robert. Accusations and defensiveness are on display. And yet, Gretchen and Robert don't exactly hate each other. In fact, it would seem that they begin to hit it off. Although Gretchen is engaged to Bernard, there's something about Robert Gretchen likes. In fact, with new perspective, there are aspects of Gretchen that Robert likes. No, not just likes. Robert has fallen for Gretchen very hard right away. And Gretchen definitely starts to appreciate Robert in new ways. Their second kiss certainly was no accident. And if the situation wasn't awkward enough before, it's more now. Because when Gretchen disappears into a room, Gabriella is in the same apartment. And Robert has to vamp and stall any way he can to keep them from meeting. At this point, Bernard is unaware that 2 of his fiancées are in the same apartment. There's general confusion on everyone's part as to why Robert's acting so strangely. Finally, with Gabriella in her own bedroom, Robert has a chance to explain the dilemma to Bernard. Naturally, high-strung Robert is freaking out. And if you haven't guessed what happens next, the play becomes a game of keep the fiancés separated, which is extremely stressful for everyone. Even housekeeper Bertha. Poor Bertha. So Gabriella's passions flare, the boys freak out a little bit more, and Bertha and Robert take up drinking together. But wait, this is just the calm before the real storm. Robert confesses his unbridled passion for Gretchen. And there's a little give and take between Gretchen and Robert. There's a me Tarzan, you Jane vibe. Then a me crazy for you vibe. This seems to evoke a deep passion in Gretchen. Oh, but don't forget Gloria. Yes, she shows up again. And when Gloria's bored waiting for Bernard, guess what she wants to do? She wants to kiss Robert powerfully and confuse that poor man even more. Of Bernard's 3 fiancées, Gabriella seems to love him the most. But she really only likes Robert, kind of like a pet. The intensity of this 3 fiancé shell game has to come to an end, as emotions boil over. Bernard will have to choose a fiancé. But as the audience soon finds out, Gloria has a surprise of her own. She receives a letter from a richer marriage prospect that Bernard doesn't know about. So with one final kiss for Robert, Gloria is gone. Since Bertha the maid has had enough at this point, she quits and leaves. Bernard realizes he's best matched with Gabriella. Gretchen and Robert are overjoyed when Bernard approves of them as a pair. The play evolves from one playboy with 3 fiancées to 2 couples. The ladies retire to their bedrooms with the promise of good things ahead. Robert can't believe his good fortune to get Gretchen, and Bernard is shocked he survived all of this intact with Gabriella still at his side. The play ends with Robert and Bernard talking about how their lives will change for the better. I made this slideshow because this play had a profound effect on me. I really bonded with these people. We all became friends. Even our kids have become friends. I count myself lucky because I get to see these folks usually about every month. Normally when a play ends, there's nothing left except a few programs and maybe a script. In this case, though, for these people, I wanted there to be a slideshow. A slideshow amounting to a salute to the folks I worked with and now admire so much. So thanks to the cast and crew of Boeing Boeing, because you guys made my life happier. Thank you.